Hey everyone, we're back with another Svelte Siren streams. And as you may notice, I do not have anyone with me. So Eric Liu was supposed to be here today. And apparently something is happening with the studio. So you'll have to give us just a minute to get here and get him in. So just wanted to kick us off and get us going, so no one is wondering what is happening while we figure some things out. I think maybe I sent him the wrong StreamYard link. There we go. Figure some things out. Sorry about that.
No, it's all good. I think I was just in the wrong room, but
okay, awesome.
How was your new role at Netlify?
It is going great. Yeah, it's exciting. I get to do a lot more of these fun little streams and things. So this is Eric, everyone, and I'm not going to try to butcher your last name, so I'm going to let you give yourself a brief introduction and
Sure. So I've got a few slides to share, and then we'll jump right into the deploying the Svelte Kit app to render.
Awesome. Sounds great.
Awesome. I'll just start share screen. Okay. Nice. Is that showing up on screen?
That is showing up on screen. I'll move us down here and then maybe just hide us for a few minutes while we do this.
Great. Hi, I'm Eric Liu. I'm a UX engineer at Render, and I've been a big Svelte fan for a couple of years now. And really, like this, in this 1 hour stream, the goal is going to be to demo how to deploy a Svelte kit or Svelte app to Render. But just for some context, and also thanks so much, Brittany, for having me on, and also for having this podcast. I remember hearing about this through Discord and also seeing it on Twitter. So it's definitely doing a lot to promote Svelte.
Awesome. Thank you so much. We're glad to have everyone from web development and the Jamstack ecosystem and just building each other up and showing how to use these things with Svelte is why I'm doing this. So I love it.
Yeah, I mean, honestly, it's probably preaching to the choir, but it's honestly, I think, going to be one of the biggest changes to front end development, and it already has had such a huge impact. But just for some more context, as you know, in terms of why Render and Svelte and how this really came to be, a couple months ago, I had published this blog post, and I'll just share it in the chat. On design patterns when building Svelte components, and I thought that this was a really interesting topic because there are already a lot of great tutorials on how to build a component library or a design system with Svelte or Svelte Kit. But I really wanted to take a step back and really look at what are the bigger patterns for building Svelte components.
And I think I may have done a few of those talks on building design systems with Svelte.
and again, it's all highly valuable, especially for finding those best practices.
Oh yeah.
And yeah, and I think that something like Storybook has already evolved so much in just the past couple of years, and also with Vite as well. But just for some more context, Render at Render for the front end, we use React and TypeScript. But we have also started using Svelte for prototyping. So we use Svelte for a hackathon. And again, I'm probably just preaching to the choir, but Svelte is just so concise, and it's really easy to move quickly with it, and it's also very readable. And for the most part, it mostly resembles just plain markup, HTML, CSS, and JavaScript.
I completely agree.
And yeah, so just a quick overview of the topics in that blog post, or what makes some really good component patterns. And again, it's opinionated, so feel free to agree or also disagree, of course. But I think that one thing that really pops into mind is when you're building out a component, it's really easy just to define everything through props. And if you have an object or an array as a prop, it can be kind of complex, especially if you want to allow the consumer to be able to customize the colors, for example, or even the actual markup. So for the first pattern, it's really about composing components, so really breaking it up into smaller components, and then as a byproduct, using Svelte context to manage state within that component. And in general, I feel like this, in most cases, is more declarative and customizable. And just to go back to the blog post, the example component is this, it's like a toy component, but it's about this bar chart race. And I'm sure you probably have, seen GIFs of this type of component on Reddit, for example. But the idea is like, it's just really about visualizing trends over time. So it's not meant to be that granular, just, like one stat over, a couple of years, for example. And so like the sample data was taken from the Stack Overflow surveys. And I think it's, the top 5 most loved languages, but the idea is like to really illustrate what Svelte brings to the table. And like this component was, written in like 180 lines of Svelte code, which is really not that much. And then also really gave the opportunity to really, showcase some of these patterns. And feel free to interrupt if there are any questions. I can't see the chat, but just let me know if there are.
Actually, in stream, because you're on one screen. I see what you mean. Yeah, so I will let you know if there are any questions. And I actually think this is like one of the reasons that Svelte was created, was that like for data visualization and graphs and charts and things for the New York Times is what Svelte was created for. And it makes it so easy and nice to like do these things. Love it.
Yeah, and like all this is just, just using Svelte, like it's using the Svelte built-in state management, the transitions and context. So it's all like it's kind of like meant to be this kitchen sink of some of the biggest Svelte features, and of course one of the biggest features would be reactivity, and really being able to programmatically set the state of the component. For example, by like clicking, set the value to the maximum value for this array of objects, or to the specific value. And yeah, so just moving forward. But yeah, I mean, like, so instead of like just having one component, breaking it into smaller components. And I think that for this toy component example, it's really appropriate where, we want to break it into distinct parts. So like the actual chart should be decoupled from, the slider that's used to control the actual value. And also it should be different from, if you want to put in your own kind of custom components or markup to then be able to control that graph.
Keeping your functionality kind of encapsulated. Right. That's the word I was looking for. Encapsulated in like a single component.
Right. That's exactly right. I think that I think I saw that you had used Carbon before, or like it might have been one of your, like one of the repos.
Yeah, I did that storybook. I built a couple design systems in SvelteKit, and I used Carbon and actually like pulled out their components and then used it in different ways. I like did one with Tailwind and one with just CSS variables.
Nice. And like, I do want to say that there are like some caveats for this kind of pattern. And I think while it is declarative, if we take a look at Carbon, the content tabs component, it definitely does look very nice and readable. So if you click on, one tab, it's gonna show that current tab. So like the second tab would then show this content too. But I think one issue that Carbon ran into was that for this type of component composition, the main limitation, if you have every component be declarative, is that there's no way for it to internally, track the actual order of the actual components in which they were instantiated, without like actually going through the DOM and like having some ID for every node. And so like just point being is like for something like this wouldn't work if you had dynamically ordered tabs. So if you like programmatically rearrange tabs, it's going to lose track of state. It's going to lose track of how many items there are. And really like the solution to that is slot overrides. So, and like this is more of like the Svelte way is if you, in cases where you do need to actually, track the order of something, and you're also maintaining state, whereas in React, you can easily iterate over like the actual child components and clone them and so on. For Svelte, it's really about, passing an array of objects and then exposing the actual individual object data to the consumer through slots. And, like going back to this example, like that's where, then like for the actual chart itself, we can, like then pass the actual individual bar chart data using the let directive back to the consumer, so they're able to, like render whatever they want, if they do want that level of control, of course. And yeah, and like the second pattern, or like the third pattern rather, would be binding. And like again, like this is probably really, it's probably like a really like common concept now for Svelte users, but I think like coming from React, it's so tempting to manually manage state. For example, like if you had this input, you would then have like an on-change event handler, and then you would manually have every keystroke then update the state internally. Whereas for Svelte, the beauty is that this is so easily achievable just through binding that prop on that input element.
Mm-hmm.
And in terms of like
it takes care of that. Yeah.
Yeah, totally. And like in terms of one-way binding or two-way binding, I think like the best, I think that the component also illustrates this as well, is that you're able to bind to the current value, but then also programmatically set the current value. And like that's the difference between two-way and one-way binding. One-way, you're not able to programmatically set the value bound to the component outside of it. But for two-way binding, then just like, again, like if you click on, if you have this button and then you have it to be, set to the maximum value, then it'll update the internal state and then also update whatever value that you've bound it to outside of the component. And like, like for all this, like it's important because like this is just realistically how you would actually work with a reusable component. It should be easy not just to one-way bind to a variable, but also be able to programmatically update it.
Absolutely.
And then like just finally, like TypeScript I think is also like really huge, and I think that it was like, and like one thing about Svelte is I feel like the maintainers and all the contributors do like this amazing job to really make things happen. And I think that, for like maybe a year and a half, TypeScript was not really supported first class by Svelte, but now it is. And it's really useful. And not just through type safety, but if you have like the autocomplete, the IntelliSense from language tools, and it'll also serve as documentation for the actual code. Assuming that it's typed correctly, but I just thought like TypeScript is also worth mentioning as a pattern, just because of how helpful it is, and also again, like if you think about like publishing components nowadays, it's almost expected, I think, by the consumer for a component to be statically typed, for for it to have like TypeScript definition. So it definitely is a huge part of the actual end user experience as well.
I think it's a big part of the conversation, and them adding it as a first class support was really a big step in getting people to recognize that Svelte is a player in this new framework ecosystem.
Yeah, totally. And like, I think like if we do take a step back, I think that arguably it is one of like the strengths of, say, React, for it to just be one language, like just pure JavaScript or just JSX, and you're also able to write all your styles like CSS and JS. But again, like I think it's ultimately comparing apples to oranges. I think that Svelte has its own strengths, and it's not about comparing them. Like it's more about like thinking what's right for the job. And I think that for Svelte at render, at least, it's been way better, way faster for prototyping, and for really like getting these concepts illustrated and really like having something work very robustly as well. And Yeah, so like that's pretty much the overview of that article. So like I'll stop sharing and then we'll just walk through deploying a SvelteKit app on Render as a web service. So like this is just a screenshot of what it'll look like when it's deploying. And then the actual end product is probably really familiar to people on the stream or in the Svelte community. It's just the basic example for like from SvelteKit. Yeah, so I'll stop sharing my screen, and if there aren't any other questions.
Okay, no, we didn't have any questions yet. So at this point, do you want me to start to build a SvelteKit application that we're going to deploy on Render? Is that what you're planning?
Sure. So like,
Awesome.
It is faster just to paste it. Like for example, there is a Render example right here where like, again, like I'm not sure if you want to like go this path, but it is faster just to paste this URL in and then it'll, clone this public URL and then deploy it. Unless you of course want to, start from scratch, which is also fine.
Let's show both ways. I think we have time to show both ways. So let me share my screen here. Get screen 2 up, share. And I'll get that up there and maybe give it a couple bumps. Okay, so we're going to fork this one. And is that what you meant?
Or like, it's even easier, like, unless you want like actual, like, push control to that actual service, it's easier just to like paste the URL. So I'll actually give you the dashboard for Render, and then we can try the second way later. But yes, if you go to the Render dashboard and then just like sign up or create an account, hide that.
I think I may have to go for like 2 seconds. I think I have someone at my door banging.
Sure.
So
Yeah.
Give me just a second. If you want to talk to the crowd, that would be great.
Sure. Yeah, so just let me know if you have any questions or thoughts or feedback in general.
And I'm back. Sorry about that.
Awesome.
Oh, that was funny. So we have this basement door that just got installed, and we had somebody down there working on it. I'm like, somebody's banging on my house. I don't know if you can hear it right now.
Nice.
But I had to run down 2 flights of stairs, and I'm trying to get signed in here on the Render dashboard. Okay, perfect.
Okay, nice. Cool.
It looks like I have already done this one time.
Awesome. Yeah, so I think that's the static site, which is totally cool. I think that we'll try to first deploy the web service. So if you go to like the new dropdown and then click on web service,
Okay.
And then just take that URL for the render example and then just paste that into the search bar.
This one here into the search bar here.
Yeah, perfect. And then select that. And then it's gonna, it's gonna give you the create service form. So I'll just give it any name that hasn't already been used.
Sirens render.
And what's cool is that it'll auto-detect the environment, which is Node is what we want. You can also configure the region. So I think that, are you still in the Midwest or?
I am in the Midwest, but it's really like the East Coast. Like Ohio is just directly kind of southeast of me. So I think I'll go with US East.
Nice. And then for the build command, we'll actually have to change it to npm install and then semicolon npm run build. And this is because like it'll try to guess like what configuration you have, but in this case, we used npm to generate the log file. So if we use yarn instead, because there is no yarn lock, it's going to get the latest Svelte kit. And I think it does have breaking changes since this was last updated. Days ago.
These package managers are like a mess already. Like with PMPM too, it's like just becoming this thing. I love PMPM locally, but I've heard so many people have issues like when deploying PMPM for like mono repos and yeah. So the start command, do we need to also change to npm run dev, or does that matter?
I think in this case, I think npm run start or node space build. I think, let's try npm run start. I think it's one of the commands in the script. And then if you scroll down, so like by default, there is a free tier for web services that you're able to create as many free web services as possible, but there is a build limit. And if you keep on scrolling down and then just go ahead and try to create that web service.
So this actually creates a node server for you.
Yes, that's correct.
All right, and we'll see if that worked here. So that's just taking this repo that we have on the left here and building and deploying it for you on render.
Yeah, that's
so hopefully if all this goes well, we'll have a live link that you can just go off to the races. Does it have logs that scroll automatically here?
I think in this case, maybe if you just try like refreshing the page.
Okay, yeah.
It should have logs though, but what was the other like static service for, like, if you don't mind my asking, on render that you had?
I think I was just trying out render. That was so long ago. I don't even remember. It may be a SvelteKit site. I'm not sure.
Nice. Excellent.
Yeah, this doesn't seem to be going for some reason.
While we're waiting for this, maybe we could try, scaffolding the other.
Yeah, I was seeing what that was for. It must have just been a test blog that I was just trying to. Oh.
Nice.
Yeah. You know what? I bet this was a workshop. I think I did Scott Spence's Jamstack workshop, but this doesn't look like his. He used Daisy UI, so I have no idea. Who knows? Could be Scott Chalinsky too.
Is Tailwind sort of like taking over Svelte as well, or like?
Oh, Tailwind is taking over the world. I think. I have my pros and cons with it, but I will use it. It's fast to get up and running with, so I will use it. Okay, this one is still like trying to deploy, so I'm not sure what's going on here.
And then if you could click on the, the first deploy link, maybe let's see if the logs start populating. It's still.
Yeah, it's still just like in progress, and it's not. Is there a way to cancel and refire?
Yeah, so like there's the manual deploy button near the top right. And then, if you just click on deploy latest commit, that should also create a new deploy.
See if something just hung up there on my end.
In the meantime, I guess we could also try deploying a static site. So there is also a Svelte static example. So if you click on the new dropdown and then static site, at least we can try this as well. So this is the URL. I just pasted in the chat.
Whoops.
Yeah, perfect. And yeah, in the meantime,
Sorry.
we can try that.
Okay. I brought both of my windows with me, so StreamYard was coming over here. I was like, please don't do that. Okay, so SvelteKit's at it. So we take this little URL and we put it there, and that's the one we want to deploy. And then let's call this one Sirens render static and build command. Do we do the same build command there?
npm install, npm run build, and then no start command, which is nice.
Yeah.
And for the published directory, I think it's builds, unless is the default SvelteKit.
Is it build? I don't know why I think that's wrong, but I'm going to go ahead and spin up a local SvelteKit npm init svelte at next, and we'll call this Sirens. Oh, I'm already in the Sirens thing, so I'll do render. I'm just going to call it render. Naming is like the hardest thing. Like, seriously, we joke about it, but it is really the hardest thing in web development.
Like the worst thing is when you need to change the actual repo name before, and it's already been like pushed to Git, and it's longer to like then have it be reflected locally, and confusing.
It is. I think that might do what I wanted it to. Okay, and I can use PNPM locally, and it will still use npm when we deploy this. And I wanted to run PNPM run build and see if it was build folder. Did it build something? What did you build? SvelteKit build, production. It's not called build, is it? This? Oh, it's svelte.sveltekit/build. So do we need to specify that?
Oh, I thought that was only for local development, the .sveltekit, and then when you actually build it, at least for the static version, it'll then pre-render everything into the build folder.
A build folder, okay. At the root.
Again, like it's changing so fast that that would be incorrect.
It is changing very fast. All right, so let's see. Oh, dashboard, see what's happening here. Neither of these are kicking off in the right way. So if I push this to Git, is there a way to use my current?
Yeah, so like it seems like you already have your GitHub account connected. So yeah, if you push it to Git, to GitHub, it should be able to pick that up as well.
So git init and gh repo create, I think, and push an existing local repository. Hopefully render isn't already in there. That's fine. That's fine. And yes, add the remote. Origin is fine. And git branch -n main. All right, git.
Oh, nice. Is that the GitHub CLI?
It is. But it, for some reason, sometimes it uses master instead of main, and it drives me crazy. And then so I usually switch to a new branch and get branch -d master, and then we can get add, get commit, init, and get push, and it'll tell us to do this. And I never remember this command, so I just copy and paste it every single time. I need to make aliases for that because I'm just like the worst. So now we that should be up on GitHub. So let's go to GitHub and let's look for render. And we have that repo not, oh, there it is. Okay. I'm going to minimize that back out a little bit because I can't see what I'm doing. So now we have this repo. So where would we go from here if we wanted to get this that I just pushed up, a brand new SvelteKit app up on render?
Yeah, so in this case, you can go back to the new dropdown, and then you'll select what you want to deploy it as. I think in this case, it's not a static site, so let's try web
This is
service.
just the auto adapter. So I didn't install any
Oh,
extra adapters or anything. So it's going to deploy that by default as a Node app, I think.
okay, yeah. In that case, we'll select web service.
It will try to detect which platform that you host it on. So I'm hoping that if we do web service, maybe if we did static, it would just detect static, but I don't know if it will for sure. So, oh, I just clicked the wrong thing. There we go. And render. Auto.
Let's try making the region Oregon, if that's okay.
Okay.
Excellent.
Yep. Since
And
the other one was having some issues. So
yeah, like,
we need to change this back to npm install, npm run build. And do you want to try node start here, or do you want to try a different start command?
oh, for the build command, I think it might have gotten cut off.
Oh, it did.
But,
Thank you.
yeah, like, could you look at the package.json for that repo?
Mm-hmm.
Again, like I'm not.
Package JSON. Where are you? There we go.
Let's see if there's a start command. I mean, like I've heard that the preview is not really meant to be run in production, so maybe it's just node.
Yeah, there's not a start command. There's like a dev build, but that runs Vite. So that's not like your true build output, I don't think.
Could you run like npm run build locally, and like let's just see what the folder looks like. I think it's probably just build, maybe.
It's this Svelte kit
Okay.
build.
Okay. Yeah, I think you're right in that case. Could you try doing node space build / index.js, or sorry, .sveltekit build. So
Oh, dots.
Yeah.
And then / index.js.
Yeah, perfect.
So we're trying to run this file, is what we're doing.
Yeah, perfect. And
module not found. Cannot find module index.js. It's like not finding that folder. Node dot. Oh, I did SvelteKit together. Build index.js. Still module not found. My spelling is right, isn't it? Svelte-kit / build / index.js. Someone is saying that it's just / build. So even though it's in the folder, maybe there's some like funky routing going on there. So node and then build / index.js is what should work. Still doesn't work.
Is it
I mean,
possibly like a node version? Like I know that they no longer support node 14, but
I'm on 16.
that's correct.
That was a thing I ran into the other day with PNPM. I couldn't run any of my PNPM commands because the node version was incorrect. And so I had to update everything. So now I'm on 16 because of that.
I mean, like the node build sounds right, but for some reason, like that build folder is not appearing at the top level in the folder structure, it seems. So I wonder.
But even like trying to run it at the folder structure like this is not working either. Did I maybe not click the / so node? Does it need a / in front of it?
I don't think so, but
it's not working anyway. Like any of it is not working.
So like in this case for the auto adapter, it'll just default to node just because Netlify and Vercel aren't, don't have their config files there, right?
Well, there is like a node adapter. So it should auto detect the node adapter for render, but it may not be. So maybe we need to install the node adapter. Svelte.js node adapter node, I think is. I've actually never used the adapter node. Isn't that incredible? So I think we would go pnpmi -d at svelte.js/adapter-node at, it's not exclamation point, at next. That would get us the node adapter. And then let's add that. Add a node adapter and push that. And now let's head back to render. Where did that screen go? Ooh. I don't know where my render screen went. There it is. I have way too many windows open. So now, have we deployed this yet? We haven't even started trying to deploy it yet.
Yeah, not yet, I don't think.
So now if we go through this, but we can't get the start command to work, do you think it's just node build/index here?
Yeah, I think that's still the best bet. Thanks
Okay.
to Robert for that.
Yeah, thank you, Robert.
Let's give that a try.
Okay.
All right.
Now let's see if that's working. What I wanted to get to and talk about too. Oh, look, it's doing something this time. Yay. Maybe it's the East server that's like down or something.
I'll pass that along, yeah.
But yeah, I wanted to get to like talking about how you could actually use render for maybe a backend and like use something like Netlify or something else if you wanted to host your front end somewhere else. And can you use it like that where you could split?
Yeah, sure.
It failed.
Svelte kit not found. Okay, so in this case, could you go back to the settings tab, the bottom left? Let's look at the actual, so we have npm install, but there's no Svelte kit command.
Yeah, that's weird because it should install Svelte kit with npm install.
Could you go back to the logs, please? So if you scroll back up to the, and like there's, in the same page, there's an events tab.
Is that not it?
One tab above that, the events, and then click back into the deploy. Let's look at the error message a bit more.
Let me go up to where it's
okay. So, all right. So like, okay. So right now the default
unsupported
version
engine
on render is 14. So
we need to set the environment variable for node. Is that a thing on render?
Yeah, so like there are several ways. I think the easiest in this case is if you just go back to the package.json and then add in the engines node field and then just say 16 or above. I'll find the docs for.
And it's node, and what version do we need? Greater than equal to 16
in this case, and then if that engine's node field is specified in the package.json, render will take that into account and install the appropriate version. And I'll just link the docs here, but there are docs on render about the different ways you can specify node version. So it can also be through an envar, but in this case, we'll just have it in the package JSON.
I was trying to see what they were saying in chat. It kicked off another deploy though, correct? Because I pushed up, so it watches the Git repo for a new. Does it watch for a new push and then redeploy?
So if you go back to the events, it should be auto deploy. Yeah, correct. So like every push will then kick off a new deploy, and that's because the auto deploy option is enabled by default, but you always have that option to disable auto deploy.
And there's the node version. I'll link that out for people. And it looks like that deploy didn't get logs again, like something's going on with the server here. Deploy started on commit with node version as the message. Oh, there it goes. Just take a minute.
So back to like the topic about Netlify for the front end, and I think that's definitely a really valid use case of having like a static site or like a pure front end thing be on Netlify or some other service, and then having your API or backend run on render.
Yeah.
either like web service, and like there's also private services and background workers, and also cron jobs. So it's like honestly, I would say that like it's a really diverse set of things that you can do. It looks like it's succeeding. Fingers crossed.
Oh, yay. We got one up.
So at least it's built, and now
It's generate a container image from the build.
Okay, and
What does that mean?
this is what you meant about like the auto adapter finding the actual, just finding what adapter to use.
Oh, you know what? I'm not bright. So we installed the node adapter and then we did not switch it in the Svelte config file. So you're right. It is using the auto adapter there because I installed the adapter node here and then I didn't use it. So it's still using the auto adapter. But it looks like the auto adapter is working the way it's supposed to. So yay. We found that out. So what is this container image from build doing?
Yeah, so it's like what's really cool is like it's going to store the build cache so that when you push again, it'll first defer to the actual cache that you have on render. And of course, like as we saw previously, if you click on the right, on the manual deploy button in the top right, there is the option to manually clear the cache, although like, it'll just start from scratch. So like if there are incremental changes that wouldn't impact this cache, I would definitely recommend just, like having it be hooked up just to deploy the latest commit. It should speed up subsequent builds. And I also do want to call out that this is the free tier that you're currently on, and paid plans can be faster in terms of builds.
Spin up and the build times and all that. That makes sense. So it's caching our build at that spot so that you're able to roll back if you needed.
Yeah.
And so that new builds will be cached at that point so that pages, does that have anything with like incrementally building where it's like you have your pages already built and then it looks for changes?
So I don't think that that's supported out of the box for specific frameworks. There is cache, and I know that I do know that for Gatsby, there is a way to reuse that exact cache from the previous build to support that incremental build. But of course, like, this is not about Gatsby; it's about Svelte.
No, I know that specific frameworks do have that. So like incremental static regeneration from Next and Gatsby has, I forgot what theirs is called, but it's similar to distributed persistent rendering, the Netlify thing that they came out with for that. It's similar to that, like on-demand build. And so, yeah, I know what you're talking about. I don't think that we have anything right now for caching in SvelteKit that I know of. I was just wondering if Render did something out of the box under the hood here.
It definitely does store the build cache. So yeah, for any subsequent install and build, it should be a lot faster.
Awesome. So is this still generating this container, or maybe it still says it's in progress. So maybe it's just still generating that cache, but this URL is live. Does it show, is there a way for us to link that live URL out somewhere? Could not detect a supported production environment. What is this line? Okay. Robert has a question actually before we do that. How would it know which pages to cache for the Node app unless there are pre-rendered pages? Is there some added logic to it?
Is that for SvelteKit specifically, or
is that for Render, or is that for SvelteKit, Robert? I'm actually not sure too. So
for pages like specific to your Node app, it would not know unless you specifically copy that file over, that folder over. And that's sort of like going back to for Gatsby. I think that there's like some sort of like public.cache folder, and copying that over will contain the previous pages from that previous build, and then you're able to, and then it'll be able to build a lot faster. But again, like that's Gatsby specific. But for any Node app, I don't think that that's supported just out of the box. But
okay, yeah.
That's a great question though.
Yeah. So
Node app before Render.
Robert is right that even node adapter can still have static pre-rendered pages. We can use the export const equals pre-render in the context module script of pages, and then that page would be pre-rendered even with a node app. So yeah, I guess he was wondering about that.
And I think, like, going back to what you said, is that currently supported by SvelteKit? Where like say
Yeah,
that you have
so
like
say here we have just an index route and we create a new like about.svelte route, and then we can do this, and instead of all this we can do export const equals pre-render. I think it's, is it pre-render or pre-rendered? Kit.svelte dot pre-render. Where are you? Export const pre-renderer equals, oh, I'm doing it the wrong way. Pre-render equals true. And then this page, H1, this page will be static. Save. And down here, get add, get commit, pre-render about page. Get, I can get a quotation mark in there and get push, and we'll kick off a new build.
Okay, nice. I think great.
And so here's our new deploy for our pre-rendered page. I don't even know if we would be able to see what this is doing here, but this page, did we have that live? Oh, there it is. I'm blind. Page can't be found.
Yeah, so I think that the previous deploy had not yet completed, but once it's built and then deployed and then started, because it's a node app, then it should then be live. But I think it's probably faster for this commit though.
So none of the deploys had actually finished yet.
Yeah, so like if you push another commit, it's going to cancel that last deploy.
And even this, so the build is actually already done for this commit. It's just generating this container image again, and that's the part that's taking a little bit.
Yeah, and then it's going to deploy it and then run that start command. And
so
once it's marked as live, then you'll have the option to instant roll back to that previous snapshot
on that dashboard screen. Okay, that makes sense. So once this is actually like live, like once this generating container image from build is done, our URL that I just posted should be live, and we should have a site here running on the node adapter, but with a static about page.
Yeah, that's correct.
Okay, perfect. Is there anything else like to know about render in general and with SvelteKit, like how we can use these in different ways?
So I mean, I think already like on render, we do have a couple of quick starts for SvelteKit and Svelte. I think the vanilla Svelte quick start, it uses rollup, and it's deployed as a static site. And I think that like one thing to keep in mind, and again, like it's a pretty neat feature, but again, like being able to configure the rewrite and redirect rules very easily for a given static site. Then makes it easy to make a single page application behave as kind of like the static site. You know how like the router takes
over. So
you
said vanilla Svelte, like the client side rendered Svelte, like the language.
Yeah. So like not SvelteKit.
It is so hard to discern. Like we've been having these conversations lately about discerning between Svelte and SvelteKit, and like, is SvelteKit taking the place of Svelte? But Svelte is like the underlying language, and that's kind of hard to get your head around when SvelteKit is named so similarly.
It's kind of like React and Next.js, right? Like one is
the
framework, and then one is the actual library or the language. And just by the way, like I've always like insisted on calling Svelte Not a framework, but more of like a compiler, I think is like the,
Yeah.
it's what it's called, like on the actual front page. And it's definitely more correct, I think. Yeah, so
I'm
we'll
just
just wait for this.
I keep like coming back to it thinking that I need to like refresh or like go to another page and see. So we have a memory game that like while your site is building, you can play memory up on the Netlify build. So maybe we need to put a PR into Render to add like a game to play. It looks like the build is uploading, so we're
Yep.
we're getting a next step there. So how do you like working at Render? How is your job day to day?
It's been amazing so far. I've learned a lot, and I've been at Render for about 8 months now, and I'm based in SF. And yeah, it's
San
growing.
Francisco for y'all outside the
Yeah,
US.
San Francisco, and yeah, and we're always hiring, so
Yeah,
I
post
might be
that
able
and
to plug.
and if you're using Svelte, like we will post that to our Svelte jobs channel. We love hearing about more Svelte jobs. It's deploying. And
So
there's emojis. Emojis are my favorite.
at Netlify, are you going to do a lot of advocating for Spelt specifically, or is it?
Yeah, so I think it's a little bit of everything. It's hard to even know as a DevRel like what your job is. Like where does Netlify end and like my stuff begin? But I mean, so far I've really just been doing a lot of like Svelte Sirens content, getting to work a lot with Svelte. Now that Ryan Carniato joined Netlify, like I'm working with Solid a little bit. So it's kind of all over the place, but that's fun for me, like learning all these new frameworks and things and staying on kind of the cutting edge of technologies. Really, I love it.
How is Solid, by the way?
It's very similar to like React hooks, but with Svelte's like compiler sense. So it's really a mixture of the two frameworks that I've ever used. So like I tend to like it, although I don't love JSX. And I know people have heard my hot takes on JSX before, but I mean, I will get there. So
I mean, like I think it's like, I think a while back I saw something about how
it
no.
failed. No.
Yeah, so
You're not
if we go back to the project itself, I think we should just try just using the node adapter and just see what output
okay.
that produces
So
locally
spell
first,
config,
and then just be able to make sure that we're able to run
go save.
the start command locally.
Okay, so now it used. Now we have a build folder. I see.
Okay, nice. And that's where Robert had that
build
great pointer.
index.js. Yep, you are right. And there it is. So now it's working. So with the node adapter, it's working. Should I just push this real quick?
Yeah,
See if we can get it.
let's give it one more. Let's give it one last shot.
I guess I gotta add it. Git commit node adapter actually added. Push. And that should be over here.
Nice.
So exited with status 1. And so, I mean, still, if we run node build /index.js, then localhost 3000.
Okay, cool.
And we don't have a nav or anything, but about this page will be static. So this page should.
Yeah, I think it's also really cool that SvelteKit, I think, supports all the variety of different approaches to building an app, whether it's purely static, a mixture of both, SSR, and I like how they also support building component libraries and building design systems, where you have like that really sweet package command to auto-generate.
Oh, I know. SvelteKit package is so cool. And I think it's an underutilized, like not enough people know about it to use it, but the people that are making like tons of NPM packages just because you can easily.
Yeah.
It's
And
awesome.
it's also nice that you don't necessarily need to create a separate ESM format or CGS format, to ship the source Svelte files. And as long as you're using, a bundler like Webpack or Rollup or Vite or Svelte Kit, then it'll just work automatically.
Robert also asked, is there a reason why the caching is being done before the deploy in the build here?
Um,
Did I hit the wrong button? Is there a way to see those logs still? No, probably not. I was going to show you what.
I misspoke. I think that it will cache the build only after a successful deploy.
Okay.
Which would make a lot more sense. So we'll just wait for this build to upload.
So, I mean, with the commands that,
I think so. Like this question is more about like I think there's like a line somewhere in the log saying it's caching the build.
yeah, right here it's generating the container, and that's what we were talking about as like being the cache for the build, and then it started to deploy, and that's when it failed.
Yeah, so I think it's just trying to optimize for that next build, even if the actual deploy or the deploy start command itself fails.
Well, while we're doing that, just so we can finish up on time too, hopefully this will build and we will have a live URL working. But on Friday, we have Danny Sandoval joining us to talk about the story behind the official Svelte newsletter. It's unofficial in quotes because it is the official Svelte newsletter that goes out every month. But Danny will be joining us to talk about that. And I'm really excited to hear how this got started. Woo. So is there anything else we can talk about that we missed about like Render in general, or any other questions anyone has? Feel free in our last little 3 minutes here while we're trying to wait on the build to fire.
I do want to mention that in addition to background workers, private services, web services, static sites, which are always free, Render does also offer managed PostgreSQL and also managed Redis, which is fairly new as well. So again, like if you're looking, like as you said, if you're looking for a place to host more backend stuff, I think that Render would be perfect for that. In addition to APIs and so on. And of course, like with front end stuff, static sites as well, of course.
Awesome. So what time is it out in San Francisco?
11:28. So
11, yeah, almost lunchtime for you. I always think it's so weird going from the East Coast to the West Coast if you're working with people, because it's like I'm wrapping my day up as they're going to lunch. It's kind of interesting.
Yeah. So like for you, it's like 2:30. Is that?
Yeah, it's 2:30. Time zones are odd, just in general. Dealing with time is weird.
So like, did you work remotely at your previous role? And like, because it sounds like now that for Netlify, it's probably remote.
Netlify is remote first, so yeah, everyone is remote at Netlify now. Granger is where I was before, and we started as remote because they had pandemic restrictions, and so their team that they built, I was building the design system at Granger, and that team was one of the first ones that went remote.
Fully remote. I'm guessing you used Svelte, of course, for the.
We started out, I did a whole talk on this. My talk at Svelte Summit a few weeks ago was about Granger hired me to work on a Svelte kit design system, and then they transitioned to React over Christmas. And so it was this big talk that I did about why they transitioned, and it was the right decision for Granger to do that, but not my passion and not what I wanted to do. So I was lucky and fortunate enough to get this new role. It looks like it is deploying. We're so close.
So close, yeah.
I'm going to hold it out. If you don't have to go right away, I'm going to see if we can get a live.
Yeah.
It's like we're all like hanging on anticipation, like, please just let it go. Oh, yeah, I'm excited. There's so many things going on. This week alone, like 2 weeks ago, I had 6 different streams or podcasts that I was on. And this week I again have 6. I had 2 that got canceled and moved. So I'm thankful, but I'm also sad because I love doing these things, but it's a lot. 6 in a week is like a lot of things to do.
But like, please keep that up. I mean, like it's so important to like build that grassroots community interest in whichever language or framework. And it's not enough just for it to be like open source on GitHub, I feel, right? Like it's got to have the evangelists, the advocates, and ideally be, supported by companies as well.
I completely agree. I think community is one of the biggest drivers of getting people on board with these frameworks and showing them like the nice things about it, like the developer experience and why we love it. And those things just drive more people to want to try it. And I think Svelte has been really one of the biggest players in that because we've done the Stack Overflow survey and the State of JavaScript was that the other one, the State of JavaScript survey, where we were like top on those for like 2 years running. And so showing that to the community at large drives more people to want to try it.
Totally.
Yeah. Build successfully, but we're still deploying.
It's pretty close. I'm still good on time, by the way.
Okay. I feel like I want to like play more with the SvelteKit app or do something like just until we see that there's a live URL there. I didn't see any more questions come in. I don't think. Robert pointed out that I missed it in the Svelte config. That was good. That's pretty much par for me. Like I will install something and just forget to configure it. So I do like that it's like one little line that you had to change. Like this was auto and you just had to change it to node and it will just automatically because we've got it set up so nice now. This adapter wasn't even in here when SvelteKit was just starting to come around. The adapter auto is fairly new. And so you would have to install an adapter on your own, know which adapter you would want ahead of time, and then install it and then configure it. And the developer flow is much better now. Oh, look, we have something. Nope. Come on.
Can you click on, maybe click on that again. Maybe just refresh again.
This is our local one running.
Close with no cigar. Might take a few seconds, but yeah, I mean, like it looks like it started correctly, and
it looks like the node server is running. Whether that means that the actual app is working correctly. Is there a way to see what we set as our build script or our start script?
Yeah, so like back in settings, that info.
What did you say?
In settings, in the settings tab.
Settings, okay. Node build/index.js, and that's what we have here. That's correct. That's running.
And I'll also say that render should automatically set the node M to production if you are running it in production. So yeah, maybe try refreshing just one more time. I think
now that it says live. I'm even trying like hard refreshes. They're not. Oh, there it goes. It just took like a minute. Okay, we have a live URL.
Again, like I do want to say, like I think it's the free tier. Like it does take some time to warm up, and I do want to like say that like the paid plans are typically a lot faster. But yeah, like let's see if the about page was pre-rendered.
Okay.
Nice, awesome.
Yeah, so I mean, is the way to test that just to test your network here and see how much JavaScript is loaded? But
I
it's got
usually like to do
JavaScript
like
on
the Command Option U, and then just look at the source code, and like if the source code is like just have that markup, I think it has been pre-rendered.
Command Option. What did you say? I'm on Windows, so Command
Oh,
Shift U.
Command Option U, or right click and then view page source.
View
And then
page source.
if we see that text,
Oh, yep.
okay, nice. Yeah, I think it's been pre-rendered, and it's also hydrating when it hits the client side. But
So this is hydrating the app here. And this is the actual static page. So if we went back and looked at that, not that, view page source. This looks the same though.
oh, interesting. So like, is the homepage also being pre-rendered?
It is, but it shouldn't be because we're using the node adapter. It should be doing that.
Oh, okay. Yes, right. It's SSR in this case,
Mhm.
which would make sense.
Oh, so yeah, it's server-side rendering that page. But this one should be statically generated and not have this JavaScript, is my understanding of pre-rendering.
If you go
It's
back to
pre-rendered on the server.
if you go to the VS Code, to the local project, and look at the build folder, I wonder if like here we'll more easily be able to tell what's happening. So like in the in the build. So there, and then is there in the pre-rendered folder? I wonder if there's. Okay, so it's only for about.
Yeah, so it is
Nice.
pre-rendering it, but there's still JavaScript there, hydrating.
That's awesome.
Page.
Yeah.
I guess I still have some things to learn about hydration and how all of this like works, because I guess I assumed that pre-rendering would make it not have JavaScript. It's more. Robert had some more like good tips I was reading. It's more with a CDN, since refreshing it switches from found and not found pages. I'm
I
not
think
sure what
Svelte
that
does have that option where you can disable hydration, and then I'm not sure if like that in conjunction with pre-rendering all pages would then make it a truly static site without like any client-side routing. But that I haven't tried, but
you
like
can do that too. Yeah, that's
kit.hydrate or something.
hydrate. Yeah, so
Oh, nice.
but that's what I thought this was doing. So that's what we have here. Export const pre-render equals true. Some of the pages of your app can be represented as simple HTML file generated at build time. So yeah, that was my understanding, is that server-side rendered apps get rendered on the server and then they can be dynamically updated at any time. But a statically generated page is generated on the server and then it stays that way until you rebuild the page.
Gotcha.
Right? Isn't that the difference? Am I wrong? Because I'm writing a rendering post right now. So if I'm wrong, I need to.
No, I think that's a good way to put it. Anything that is any content that is dynamic or like that relies on like
An
that can
update of
change should
some
be,
sort.
yeah, that should be like SSR, and then anything that's like where the output is always deterministic, always static, should be pre-rendered. I think. I think it's kind of like that Hacker News clone example that they used to have, where they would pre-render the about page for Hacker News, but then everything else, of course, had to be dynamically.
Yeah. And so I guess just in my head, maybe I thought that pre-render would have no JavaScript because it would be rendered on the server and would not need to update it all dynamically. So it would just be a static page at that point.
Right. Yeah.
But that doesn't seem to be what's happening. So maybe there's something Svelte there that I need to figure out. And maybe somebody can come on and teach us to do that next time. So we're several minutes over now. So I'm going to let Eric go finish his day, and or go have some lunch, I guess. I'm going to get off and go get my kids soon. And we will be back on Friday with Danny, like I mentioned earlier. Come and check that out and find out the story behind the newsletter. And thank you so much for joining us, Eric.
Thanks for having me. Thank you so much.
Yeah, it was awesome. And I will catch y'all next time. Bye.